Hi everyone, my name's April Holloway. I'm currently braving the Irish weather, cold, windy and rainy day at the Rock of Cashel, County Tipperary in Ireland. This is an amazing historic site. Actually, it's one of the most visited archaeological, or rather historical sites in the whole of Ireland. Behind me you can see some medieval buildings. We've got a round tower, Gothic Cathedral, and on the other side there's a 12th century chapel. Now the history goes back about 1600 years, but the medieval buildings are mostly what remain. However, they are one of the best examples of medieval architecture, not just in Ireland but even in the whole of Europe, in terms of their preservation and what you can still see standing today. I'll explain a little bit about the history of this amazing place, but before I start doing that, I'm just going to show you a bit of the scene behind me. So let's see if I can turn my camera around. Oh, that's in front of me. So beautiful open flat plains, amazing view. This was originally a fortress, and you can understand why. You could see enemies coming from miles away. So an ancient and medieval graveyard here, and we've got a 12th century round tower in very, very good condition, which you can see there. And then that's a 13th century Gothic cathedral. Lots of birds doing their nesting at the moment. Spectacular sight. I'm going to show you first, before we go inside the cathedral, some of these Celtic crosses. Some of them go back a few hundred years, and others are modern, and you can see that the Celtic art tradition actually continues all the way up until today. So here's one example of a Celtic high cross. It's got the knotted design, or I don't know if you can see in the light, knotted design in the center. The Celtic high crosses are symbolized by the ring which circles around the cross, and they're always made out of stone. Okay, so that's one example. We also have an older one over here which has actually fallen down, but it's also a very nice example of a Celtic cross. So there you can see in the center the traditional Celtic knotwork, and also along the sides of the cross. Unfortunately, the written text on this grave has actually faded away, so I really don't know what age this one dates to, but I would say at least a couple of hundred years. Okay, so I'm going to walk around now to the Gothic Cathedral and go in the entrance so I can explain a bit about the history of this place. So you can see in front some of the fantastic views, very typical Irish scenery. Okay, so we're walking now into the cathedral. A few people around braving the Irish weather as well. So here we are inside 13th century Gothic Cathedral. It's shaped as a cross, so we've got a north, south, east, west orientation here. I'm going to take you over here where you can see we have some gravestones in the floor of the cathedral. And over here are the remains of an old fresco, 13th century, so not in very good condition. But here we have a painting which shows what it would have originally looked like. We have over here some more gravestones. This one's not too old, 1940s, actually it's quite recent, and some sarcophagi over here as well. I'm going to do a little bit more of a walk around, and then I'll tell you more about the history of this site. Not too many people here today. Normally there are hundreds and hundreds of people flocking through the buildings of the Rock of Cashel, but today, because of the weather and it's quite early, not many people here. Okay, so let's explain a little bit. I'll try and get out of the wind because that's very noisy. Okay, let's try and get some shelter in the corner here. So the history of the Rock of Cashel goes back about 1600 years to the 4th century, when a powerful clan, which actually came over from Wales, inhabited this rock called the Rock of Cashel and formed it as their base. Now there is a legend about this rock. So basically we've got a flat grassy plain, and in the middle of that flat plain is this huge big hill made of limestone out just in the middle of nowhere, this large hill. So the legend or the mythology says that St. Patrick went to a mountain cave about 30 kilometres here. The mountain's called, I think it's the Devil's Bit or Devil's Mountain. Went to a cave and supposedly banished Satan from this cave. And according to the legend, then the power of this act spewed the rocks 30 kilometres to this site, and all the limestone rocks landed here and formed the Rock of Cashel. So this in the 10th century, it was taken over by another powerful tribe called the O'Briens. Now one of the O'Briens, Brian Boru, he's very famous for being the first ruler to unite the whole of Ireland for any significant period of time. Now I forgot to mention that the clan from Wales became the future kings of Munster. So Munster was a powerful kingdom in the south of Ireland, and this Welsh clan became the kings of and rulers of Munster, and their base, their royal base, was here at the Rock of Cashel. So skipping back to the O'Briens, in the 11th century, unfortunately they donated this site to the church. So what had been like a native Celtic site then became a Christian site. All the buildings that you see here today are a legacy of that period. So 12th century cathedral, 13th century church, and the round tower. Now, there's quite a significant Celtic art in the cathedral, which I'll show in a separate video. Now, in 1647, in the Irish Confederate Wars, the English troops came here and they massacred the Irish troops and all the clergy that were here. So that's a very dark part of the history of the Rock of Cashel. It's quite humbling to stand here and know that many men lost their lives on this site, men and women. So that's it for the main part of the Gothic Cathedral that I wanted to show you. I'm going to end this video and I'm going to create another quick video showing inside the cathedral. Thanks for listening. Hi, April Holloway here. I'm doing a follow-on video in the Rock of Cashel, County Tipperary in Ireland. I've just taken a video of the history of this place and showing you the outside area, the graveyard, and the 13th century Gothic Cathedral. I now want to show you just a quick video to show you inside this 12th century Romanesque Cathedral, which is also another famous aspect of this amazing historic site. So this Romanesque church is one of the earliest and finest examples of a Romanesque church in the whole of not only Ireland but also Europe as well. Extremely well preserved. Ceiling is still intact, beautiful vaulted ceiling. We've got a sarcophagus with beautiful stonework at the end here. Nice carved archways. Now in this section we have the remains of some colourful frescoes that once adorned the ceiling and walls of this cathedral, of this chapel rather. Not much is left, and the reason for that is that this is built of sandstone, and over the centuries it became very waterlogged. So part of the restoration work, look, you can see some gargoyle faces up there. Part of the restoration work was to cover this entire chapel in a rainproof cover, and they then filled this chapel with dehumidifiers and sucked out all the moisture from the stones. So that took quite a long period of time, but it prevented these frescoes from just disappearing altogether. So anyway, you can't make out what the frescoes once were, but you can see that it would have once been very colourful on the ceiling. That's the ceiling there, and also on the walls. So as I said, one of the best examples of a Romanesque chapel in the whole of Ireland and also in Europe. So this is one of the most visited historic sites in the whole of Ireland. Not just this chapel, but also the surrounding medieval buildings, the 13th century cathedral, the round tower, and the old graveyard with some beautiful Celtic crosses as well. So that's it for today. If you've only seen this video, you should also watch the main video, which explains the 1600-year history of this amazing site, the Rock of Cashel. Thanks for listening, and see you again soon.